My name is Josh from Valkenburg-Gernert. This is our 6th episode of Under the Lights. I'm here with Kathy Mathieu of the Hard Rock Track and Field team. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
First off, just getting started, you grew up in Brady, Nebraska. What was it like growing up there? What was your family like?
Yeah, so Brady's a really small town. I didn't actually go to high school there. I went to high school in a bigger town. They're about 30 minutes away. So I never really spent a lot of time in that town. But I didn't need to because I grew up in a lake right outside of it. So most of my life was spent on the water or running around on the ice when it froze over, kind of in the middle of nowhere. So I had a really adventurous childhood, and it was a lot of fun. I have one younger sister named Jessica and my two parents. So we grew up in a very small household, and it was really fun. And having all the nature around me and all that stuff.
What's the age difference between you and your sister?
I am 3 years older.
So when you grew up, you went to high school together and stuff, were you guys pretty close?
Honestly, we fought a lot, and I think it's because we were so similar. I kind of grew up as this really athletic person, and she wasn't like that, and she was kind of living in the shadow, and we didn't really come to appreciate each other until I moved away. And I remember being in the King Center parking lot, and she came with me, and she was like, all right, well, I guess you're leaving now. And that was like the big moment that we realized, oh, we kind of like each other, and we're going to miss each other, so.
So, growing up, what other sports were you kind of involved in, and what, I guess, initially got you interested in sports?
Yeah, so I was very much a tomboy as a kid. I grew up, just around a lot of boys. Like, in elementary school, I was one of 2 girls in my entire class, kindergarten to 5th grade. So, I was always around the athleticness, and it came kind of naturally to me. And once I got into middle school is when I started playing soccer, basketball, and track. Track kind of became my number one because I wasn't tall, I wasn't super strong, but I was fast. That was the sport I excelled in. That was the one I could beat all the tall girls in, so that's the one I kind of stuck with.
Those 3 sports, you kind of already sort of talked about it, but what made you realize that track was a sport for you and potentially even pursuing it in college?
I think the big thing was I liked the group of people that did track more than the other sports. There was kind of cliques within soccer and basketball, and track just felt more like a home, more of a family, which is kind of weird because it's more of an individual sport, but that's where I felt that connection the most. It's where I excelled the most, and I'm competitive and I like winning, and that's where I was doing it in. So.
And then in high school, did you go to a pretty big high school, or was it a smaller?
It was pretty large. Like, my graduating class was 350, so pretty decent size. We were in the top class in my state. So, yeah.
Did you have, first, I guess both individually and as a team with your multiple sports, what were kind of some of your most successful moments while you were in school?
I think the big one that kind of left an impact, that really opened up my career in the track world, was I kind of carried this relay, the 4x1 through state my freshman year, and I was a scrawny little freshman. I'm not big now, and I was not big then. And they needed a starter, and they threw me on it. And next thing we know, we're running really good times and qualified for state, and that was really exciting because there were 2 seniors on the team. And that's where my name kind of started to stand out when they were like, oh yeah, this little girl from Brady, Nebraska is pretty quick, and she's running fast for us. So that was a really big moment that stuck with me because that was the first time I felt like this is something I could be really successful in.
And then as you got towards the end of your high school career, when did you start kind of looking at different colleges, and what was that kind of process like?
Yeah, so honestly, track wasn't even on my radar. I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I've known that for a really long time, and every engineering school I was looking for didn't really have a track team, and all these schools that were reaching out to me asking if I wanted to do track, they were like English schools. Sorry, I can't attend that. The 2 schools I looked at was University of Wyoming and School of Mines, and the only reason I knew about School of Mines is because they came to my high school fair. So I came up here for a camp, saw there was a track team, and I filled out a little postcard and sent it to Jerry Schaefer and got a phone call a couple months later, and that was the big deciding factor for me here.
Sure. So you mentioned Coach Schaefer, so you've been through a few coaches now. What have those kind of 4, I guess, if you count Coach Hawkins? What has that kind of process been like in those transitions from coach to coach?
Stressful. I remember when I got the email from Schaefer, I just signed my letter of intent. He said, "I'm retiring." I said, "So I still get to come, right? Am I still on the team? I still get my scholarship?" And he reassured me. He's like, "Coach Johnson's great. You're in good hands." And that was really good. And then through my sophomore year, we had Coach Reed leave, which was tough just because of COVID, some personal things that were going on. It was a big transition. And then through last year, it was also tough, just having Coach Johnson leave in the middle of the school year. I knew I was a leader on the team, but I felt that weight really when I just felt like we were a ship without a captain. And I think this year Coach Stevens really embraced that. It's like, I'm ready to lead, and I really want your captain's help. So it's gotten less stressful with every coaching change, but still not ideal.
Before we dive into a little bit more of the track, you mentioned you've known for a long time and you wanted to be an engineer. When did that kind of start to click? Are your parents engineers, or was it just, I guess, how did you find out about it?
Yeah, so my parents are not engineers. My mom is a special ed para for the Platte Public Schools, and my dad's a mechanic. So the reason I got into engineering was because of my cousin, my uncle. They're both engineers, and she's about 10 years older than me. So she was going through. I knew I wanted to be an engineer in 5th grade. Let's start with that. And she was going through college at that point in my life, and she's telling me about all these really cool things she was doing, and all the work she's going to be working on, all the money she's going to be making, and I was like, that sounds really fun. And I knew it stuck when I realized my favorite toys are Legos. They still are my favorite toys. I am an avid collector, and just being hands-on, watching something go from a pile of nothing to something really cool is something really inspired me to kind of follow this career path.
You mentioned you're mechanical, right?
Yep.
What was it specifically about mechanical compared to some of the other disciplines?
I liked the design aspect where I get to be really creative, and I like the hands-on building aspect where I get to put things together and see how they fail and learn from that. So mechanical engineering is kind of like the best of both worlds in that respect.
I'm kind of going through your college career. Have you had the opportunity to do any internships or job shadows?
Yeah, I've had 2 internships. The first one was with Simon Construction. I was a manufacturing intern. And then this past summer, I was a design intern for Raven Industries.
And you mentioned a little earlier that you got a job right out of college. Talk a little bit about what that job is, where it is.
Yeah, so I got a job as a design engineer for Case New Holland Industries, which is a big red tractor company. That's what I tell people, and they're like, who is that? And they immediately recognize it. So I'm moving to New Holland, Pennsylvania in July to start working that job.
Well, had you been to Pennsylvania before that, or is this going to be completely new?
The first time I went to Pennsylvania was for my interview in February, and I loved it. It's a very beautiful country, and I'm really excited. My dad is from Maine, so I feel like I have that area kind of in my blood.
Sure. Yeah, but definitely a transition to be a Nebraska person to South Dakota and then over to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's scary. I'm not doing it alone. My husband's coming with me, so it's less scary knowing we're kind of doing this together. We're moving across the country, but it's okay because it's our little family that's doing it. So.
Does he have a job out there as well?
Yeah, he's a software engineer for Raven Industries, and he's remote. So this is coming with me.
Yeah, there you go. Now jumping back into the track side of things a little bit. Some of your last couple meets coming up, the home meet Friday and then on our championships. What have been your most proudest moments, on the track, and then what do you, hope to accomplish in these last couple meets?
I think my proudest moment was how resilient I've learned I am. I've had a lot of injuries and sickness throughout my career, and I've learned that I am fully capable of overcoming those and getting back to where I was. which this season has really showed me that. Coach Stevens has been really great because he knew that I struggled those last couple of years and have had almost no problems this year. So I guess that's my biggest success, is knowing I hit hard spots and I was able to get back up and get right back where I was.
And then looking back at the time, just for the team as a whole, from where the team was as a freshman to where it is now, where do you think the biggest points of growth have been?
We feel like a team. That's the biggest one. I remember coming in my freshman year and no one knew each other's names. It was very separated. There was the sprinters, the distance, and the throwers, and we were finally starting to come together and feel like one cohesive group. And the women's team particularly, we're starting to bond and really get to know each other and support each other. And we've gotten bigger, which is really good. There was my freshman year, we were really small, and there were some eligibility issues because of that. And you don't have to worry about that anymore, which is really great knowing that there's a lot more women that are coming into this program. That's really exciting. I'm leading a program that's building, which is awesome.
Yeah, you have quite a few freshmen on both men and women that have really come in, and Pat, Lane, Thomas on the men's side. How cool is that to see kids that are coming in right away and having some success?
It's so exciting. The one thing I learned about myself through those injuries was I really like coaching. When I wasn't competing, I was coaching. So watching them succeed and watching them get better every single day is so exciting for me. It's sometimes even more exciting than my own successes. So watching them come in, get right at it, and being successful, even through all of our coaching transitions, is awesome.
Do you think you maybe have some part-time coaching in your future?
Yeah, I would love to. My plan is to get into high school once I kind of get established in my workplace.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to be an athlete in that. I was mentioned since middle school. That's 15, 20 years of being an athletics, and then just coming to a stop.
This is my 12th year of track and field, so it's going to be tough to let it go.
So obviously you haven't really grasped that moment yet.
Not yet.
What do you think that's going to be like in the next couple of weeks when you realize, I'm actually done with college sports?
I think in some ways it's going to be refreshing. I think my legs are going to be like, thank God, we're done. But I think my heart and my head are going to be really sad. Like, these are friendships that I've made that I'll never forget. It's a competitive nature for me that I'm suddenly stopping. It's going to be really tough, and I'm glad it hasn't hit me yet because I'm not ready for it.
Then we'll switch gears a little bit and talk about some of your stuff off the track, out of the classroom. You're involved in the Women's Hard Rocker organization, and you're a pretty big part of SAC and putting together the Grubbies. First, just talk about what those two organizations are.
Yeah, so the Women's Hard Rocker organization, it's new. This is its second year. It's a band of female athletes from each team. We have a committee, and we put them on events for the female athletic department. So my event this year was I did kitten yoga and invited the entire women's department. It was really fun. On Monday, we did a women's health talk, which was really great, super helpful having that knowledge. So our goal is just to bring more interaction between these teams. We're all super busy with classes and our own sports, so how do we make friends? And outside of that, that's kind of what the goal of that program is. And SAC, I've been a part of since my sophomore year, so 4 years now. And yeah, it's only grown and gotten better since I started. And now that I'm a committee head, I'm kind of seeing how important it really is to have these leaders from each team not only represent the department, but represent the school when we go to big committees like that. So I'm glad to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, and you're a big part of putting the Grubbies together.
Yep.
The Grubbies are basically our athletic awards.
Yeah.
I think this is the third year, right?
Yep.
The first year would have been the COVID year.
Yep.
And then, so what has that kind of been like, too, to see the growth of the Grubbies and being able to be a big part of putting it together?
Yeah, it's exciting because it's different every year. It means we're growing as a department, and we're thinking of like bigger and better ways to thank our athletes and their faculty and our coaches. So I'm really excited for that next week. It's been a lot of work for me and my committee, but we're really excited to show the department all the work we've done and award the athletes who earned them.
Just kind of wrapping up, what would be your pitch, so to speak, of a high school senior maybe interested in coming to school?
That's a good question. It's worth every single hardship you're going to go through. I've made my best friends here. I have a very successful career on the horizon. I've learned so much from not only athletics from the school, about myself and about the world and about how important it is to have women in STEM. And even though there was days where I said, I'm dropping out, this is it, I'm glad I did it, I'm glad I stuck it through. This is a great place to really build your future.
One last question. When you do take that minute to kind of look back at everything you've done, what do you think is going to be I guess, your favorite memories? Whether it be track, classroom, SAC.
I think my favorite memories are those really fun track meets where it's beautiful out, everyone's running really fast, throwing far, jumping high, and everyone's just excited. That kind of support is something I'll never have again, just on that kind of level, in that environment, and I'm going to really miss out.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.